This
Montachusett
conference
MPO.
will now be recorded.
Welcome everyone to the Montachusett MPO meeting of January 15th. Brian, you want to read the roll?
Yes, Stephen Wolfel, representing Mass DOT Secretary and CEO Monica Tibbetts-Nutt.
I'm here.
Ann Sullivan, Mass DOT Highway Division.
Ann Sullivan representing Jonathan Gulliver, Mass DOT Highway Administrator.
Amber Labonte Gardner.
Present.
Mark Pimarini Leominster.
Yes, here.
Glenn Eaton, MRPC, and I see Laura Schifrin, MRPC Chair as well. I'm not sure who will be the voting member.
So Laura.
Okay, Laura Schifrin, MRPC.
I'm here.
George Kahali, Mart.
Present.
And Brian Croto, Subregion 1.
Present.
Okay, great. We have a quorum. I do not see any ex officio members here, but if I do, I will call them as well as I see people come on. Thank you.
All right. Welcome again, everyone. Thank you, Brian. We'll now move on to agenda item 2. Are there any members of the public who would like to address the MPO today? All right. Seeing none, we'll move to agenda item 3, which is potential approval of the minutes of December 18th of 2024. Can I get a motion second to approve the minutes, please?
Laura Schifrin, motion.
I second.
All right. Any comments or questions on the minutes of December 18th? All right. Seeing none, Brian, you want to read the roll?
Stephen Wolfel, Mass DOT.
Yes.
Ann Sullivan, Mass DOT Highway.
Yes.
Amber Labonte Gardner.
Yes.
Mark Pimarini Leominster.
Yes.
Laura Schifrin, MRPC.
Yes.
George Kahali, Mart.
Yes.
And Brian Croto, Subregion 1.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Brian. We'll now move to agenda item 4, which is safety performance targets, PM1. Schuster, I think you're doing these, right?
Yes. Brian, do you have the slides? Excellent.
I do.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Derek Schuster. I'm the MPO liaison to the Montachusett Planning Region from MassDOT's Office of Transportation Planning. I'm here to present on the safety performance measures, or PM1 safety targets, as they're known and will be known throughout the presentation today. If you could continue to the next slide, please. Thank you. So in 2016, Federal Highway Administration passed a rule establishing 3 performance measures, PM1, PM2, and PM3, that state DOTs and metropolitan planning organizations must track as required by MAP 21 and the FAST Act. Today, I'm going to be presenting the statewide safety performance targets for potential adoption by this board. And I believe Brian will be touching on some regional safety data as well for informational purposes. Next slide, please. Required metrics under PM1 include the number of roadway fatalities and serious injuries, the rate of roadway fatalities and serious injuries per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, or VMT, and the total number of non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries. This is not a 1-year target, but a 5-year rolling average target. So the statewide target we are putting forth for this calendar year is a 2021 to 2025 rolling average target for each measure. Next slide, please. Target setting process began with a trendline projection of the latest and greatest available data in July. As noted in years past, higher rates of speeding and decreased vehicle miles traveled in 2020, 21, and 22 meant that our safety numbers were moving in the wrong direction. But the latest data from 2023 shows that we are finally seeing this trend begin to reverse itself. In addition to target setting, MassDOT also developed a 23 to 27 projection to see what the future might look like if targets and trends here hold out. You may recall we did this last year as well when setting the 2024 target. We provided a 2026 projection. So here we are providing a 2027 projection just for illustrative purposes as well. The target that we're looking to adopt is the second blue column from the right, 2025 target. Next, staying on slide 4, some more notes. As noted, these targets were developed in the middle of 24, so MassDOT had to estimate what the annual 24 numbers might look like. To do so, MassDOT compared the 2015 to 2023 year-to-date data and found that on average 55% of annual fatalities occurred between January 1st and July 30th of each year. To estimate 24 annual fatalities, MassDOT divided the year-to-date number by 55% and then assumed a 3% annual reduction in fatalities to obtain an estimate for 2025. This brings the 21 to 25 rolling average target to 365 fatalities. If this 3% annual decrease continues, our projections show the 27 5-year average will be 315. The fatality rate represents the 5-year average fatalities divided by the 5-year average VMT. VMT recently started to rebound towards pre-pandemic levels, and MassDOT expects 24 VMT to be in line with 2019, and 2025 VMT to be slightly higher. Consequently, the 5-year average rate is projected to be 0.58 fatalities per 100 million vehicle miles traveled. If this trend continues, the rate will be 0.48 in 2027. Now to the next slide. Thank you. MassDOT followed the previous methodology to estimate serious injuries for 24 and 25. We also found that roughly 55% of annual serious injuries occur between January 1st and July 30th each year. So MassDOT divided the 2024 year-to-date number by 55% to derive a 2024 full-year estimate, and then applied a 3% annual reduction to arrive at a 2025 estimate, bringing the 21 to 25 5-year average target to 2,622 injuries. If this trend continues, the 5-year average in 2027 will decrease to 2,258 serious injuries. Following the same methods to derive the fatality rate, the 5-year average serious injury rate has a target of 4.17 serious injuries per 100 million vehicle miles traveled. If this trend continues, the 5-year rate in 2027 should be 3.48. Next slide, please. For our final performance measure, the non-motorized serious injuries and fatalities, these numbers have fluctuated greatly in recent years, unfortunately with spikes in 2022 and 2023. However, in 2024, year-to-date data shows that these numbers may have peaked in 2023, and we are now trending in the right direction. Following the previous methodology, MassDOT found that on average, 54% of annual non-motorist fatalities and serious injuries occurred between January 1st and July 30th each year. So the 2024 year-to-date number was divided by 54%, and then a 5% annual reduction was assumed to estimate the 2025 annual number. Note that a 5% annual reduction here based on the state's increased work and emphasis to protect vulnerable road users exists. Finally, this brings the 25 5-year target to 497, and if this decrease continues, the average will be 445 in the year 2027. Last slide, please. Before we take an action, the requested action is for the MPO to endorse MassDOT state targets or establish their own by the end of February 2025. However, I wanted to give Brian the opportunity to present some regional target information or regional crash data.
Sure. Thanks, Derek. And just for the record, MPO staff does recommend endorsing these Mass DOT targets as we have in the past. We do feel it's important to look at some region-wide data, which you have in a handout here. You can see on this table, it's the same information that Derek just discussed, but for region, the Montachusett region only. So you have information on fatalities, serious injuries, and non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries. And although we do not have future projections for these, we still have the 5-year average sample sizes, and it's all broken down by 100 million vehicle miles traveled. So if we were to compare this to the statewide numbers that we saw in both fatalities and serious injuries, Montachusett region is slightly higher than statewide averages. And this is due to a number of reasons, we believe. And every region has different contexts, right? So the Montachusett region is going to differ from the Boston region because it's way less urbanized. We would assume that each of these vehicle miles traveled would be at a higher speed, so there's more risk there, among other things. Also, it's important to note that this is a smaller sample size, so you may see some fluctuation in these numbers. Nonetheless, we believe it's important to have these trends, to continue to report on these trends. One thing that I will mention that is almost a segue into the next item on the agenda is the Safe Streets for All Safety Action Plan that we're currently working on. We have been for the last year. Once we have this plan in place, this will allow us access to additional federal funds above and beyond what we typically see in the region for safety type of projects and site-specific type of projects that we identify within that plan. So it'll be interesting when we see this regional table in the future, if we can affect that in a positive way moving forward. Nonetheless, as Derek mentioned, the state has developed performance measures related to these targets, and staff suggests MPO adoption of those.
All right. Does anyone have any questions either for Schuster or for Brian? All right, seeing none, does anyone want to make a motion, a second, to adopt the state targets as detailed here by Schuster and by what Brian has said, that the staff is also recommending that?
So moved, Brian Croto.
Second, Laura Schiffern.
All right, any questions? Seeing none, Brian, you want to read the roll?
Stephen Wolfo, Mass DOT.
Yes.
Ann Sullivan, Mass DOT Highway.
Yes.
And now I see Nicholas Erickson, Fitchburg.
Yes.
Amber Labonte, Gardner.
Yes.
Mark Pamarini, Leominster.
Yes.
Laura Schifrin, MRPC.
Yes.
George Kahali, Mart.
Yes.
And Brian Croto, Subregion 1.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Schuster. Thank you, Brian. We'll now move on to agenda item number 5, which is Safe Streets for All, an update. I think this is you, right, Brian?
Yep. And this will be an update from our discussion from last month. If you remember, I'll just get my notes real fast. So last month we discussed our commitment to Vision Zero, and basically some background. I know many of you are aware of the Safe Streets for All grant that we've gotten to develop a safety action plan. We plan on bringing that plan for MPO consideration of endorsement in September. However, as part of this, we're required to commit to Vision Zero and have a statement saying such. So I presented last month 2 different versions of a possible commitment to Vision Zero. One is more aspirational, one more realistic, with the idea that members would have a chance to review this and send any feedback. And what we'd like to do today is review staff's suggestion of the more realistic commitment to Vision Zero and formally adopt this this month. So what I'd like to do is to read our recommended commitment. And again, we're looking for a vote to formally adopt this today. What it would be what you see highlighted. The Montachusett Metropolitan Planning Organization acknowledges that fatalities and serious injuries are preventable and unacceptable. With this statement, the MMPO formally commits to achieving a 70% reduction in fatalities and serious injuries by 2050, with the eventual goal of zero fatalities and serious injuries, which is the Vision Zero goal. This commitment complements the Massachusetts Department of Transportation's 2050 goal as presented in Beyond Mobility, which is the 2024 MassDOT State Long Range Transportation Plan. So that is the actual commitment to Vision Zero. The handout also has below that some additional type of policy type of measures that the Vision Zero Action Committee has put together. And this more or less will detail our approach to achieving this commitment. So with that being said, again, we're looking for a vote to formally adopt this commitment to Vision Zero.
All right, anyone have any questions for Brian? All right, does anyone want to make a motion second adopting this goal for the MPO, the part that's highlighted that was just detailed by Brian?
So moved, Brian Croto.
Second, Laura Schifrin.
All right, we have motion second. Any last questions or any questions?
I'll just make one more comment if I may.
Sure, go ahead, Brian.
I'd like to acknowledge Bruce Kaplan and Nathan Cabral Curtis, members of our consultant team who've been working closely with being here today. They've been valuable in this whole thing. We're right in the middle of the planning process, so you can expect some more updates from this group. So that's my comment, I guess.
All right, any members have any questions? All right, seeing none, Brian, you want to read the roll?
Stephen Wolf from Mass DOT.
Yes.
Ann Sullivan, Mass DOT Highway.
Yes.
Nicholas Erickson, Fitchburg.
Yes.
Amber Labonte, Gardner.
Yes.
Mark Pamarini, Leominster.
Yes.
Laura Schifrin, MRPC.
Yes.
George Kahali, Mart.
Yes.
And Brian Croto, Subregion 1.
Yes.
Thanks very much. We have our commitment in place, and this is just one step into us gaining access to those federal funds. So thank you.
All right, let's move on to agenda item 6, which is 2025-2029 TIP items. Take it away, Brian.
Okay, so in relation to the active TIP right now, which is 2025 through 2029, we have 2 suggested adjustments today. These are minor changes, so they won't trigger the 21-day public comment period. So we can make, if we do vote for this adjustment today, we'll make the change and it'll be the way it is. It involves 2 different projects in federal fiscal year 2025. The first one, basically the city of Fitchburg received an SS4A grant. These are federal funds, so we're required to carry it on the regional TIP. We'd like to list this on there, and that's what we'll be adjusting on. The second project is actually in a relation to a amendment that we endorsed in July related to Project 604499 in Leominster, the Route 12 project. This saw a cost increase back then. It's actually carried on the state side. It won't affect fiscal constraint in the target section, which is what we would be worried about. Nonetheless, this went off a public comment in June, came back in July. This group endorsed this. However, due to the timing of that action, did not make it onto what is now currently active TIP. We had the 25 through 29 TIP endorsed at that point, but it was not active. It became active October 1st when the federal fiscal year started. Due to the nature of the timing and everything like that, this change was made in the 24 through 28 TIP, but not in the 25 through 29 TIP, if that makes sense. So because it's already been amended in, we would suggest an adjustment to add this updated information to the federal fiscal year 25 of the current TIP.
All right, Anyone have any questions for Brian? Is there anyone willing to make a motion, a second for this adjustment?
Yes,
So
I
moved.
make a move.
Sorry. Go
Okay,
ahead, George. I'll do the second.
okay. I like to move the recommendation to approve the adjustment number 2 for the tip as presented.
Second, Ann Sullivan.
All right, any questions? All right, Brian, you want to read the roll?
Stephen Wolfo, Mass DOT.
Yes.
Ian Sullivan, Mass DOT Highway.
Yes.
Nicholas Erickson, Fitchburg.
Yes.
Amber Labonte, Gardner.
Yes.
Mark Pamarini, Leominster.
Yes.
Laura Schifrin, MRPC.
Yes.
George Kahali, Mart.
Yes.
And Brian Croto, Subregion 1.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Don't we have another action, correct, Brian?
I don't believe so. Derek,
All right. We don't? Just the adjustment, Schuster?
Double checking. I thought there was an amendment as well, but there's a Fitchburg SS4A item, but we can wait to release it next month if it wasn't prepared for today.
Yep, so that was, I did have that. So there's 2 projects with this adjustment.
You got it. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, so, and we have adjusted on these SS4A. We just recently did it for Gardner a few months ago. So I figured we could handle it that way. Just adding it on.
Great.
All right, so all good. So let's move on to the next. So we should move on to the next agenda item, which is agenda item 7, which is 2026 to 2030 tip, and that's development update. So I think this is you, right, Brian?
Yes, and as I mentioned last month, we're in the process of updating our tip list. So we'll be doing federal fiscal years 26 through 2030. Still, we're in the beginning stages of this. You can see our tip development schedule. Staff are still gathering information. We've been in contact with various project proponents, design consultants, communities, Mass DOT. In the next 2 weeks or so, we expect to have a lot of these projects updated. So a majority of our discussion at next month's meeting will be specific project-related items, especially relates to where we have discretion on placement, a certain section of the highway portion of this called the target section. So we'll have some additional information, project updates next month. We'll also discuss some evaluation criteria that we use in-house and any other specific items that related to these projects. Today, I do have for review the current list. So basically, we're taking this list, updating it. We're dropping federal fiscal year 2025, adding 2030. The idea being that these 2025 projects will have gone out to bid. I don't know if that's the case. We'll have more discussion on that at next month's meeting. We also have a transit list here, which is a current list. This is prioritized by MART, the Transit Authority. It includes things like vehicle purchases, facility upgrades, maintenance line items, that type of thing. I won't go over this in detail today. We expect an updated list from MART in the coming months. We'll have the opportunity to review that. But I will go over in detail the highway side. I'd like to point out that the majority of our discussions, and I hope it's relatively simple for people to see. It's probably not. I know the print is small, but the majority of our discussions will happen on section 1A, the first green column here, regionally prioritized projects. We also call that the target section. This is where we as an MPO have discretion over project placement. So next week when we talk about these projects, it will be primarily involved with this section 1A project section. We'll go over the full list today just for a refresher. But again, moving forward, likely our discussions will take place with this first section. So as it currently sits right now in 2025, we have Leominster Reconstruction Rehab on Route 12. and Harvard resurfaced and box widening on Air Road. These projects are what's called advanced constructed over multiple construction seasons. So you'll see this listed in 2026 too, both projects. Further down the list, section 1B and below, these are what we call the statewide section. These are prioritized by Mass DOT. So MPO doesn't necessarily have discretion on these projects and where they're placed. We expect an updated list of this, which we'll review with the group probably in March, but I'll go over what we have right now as it stands today. In 2025, we have Gardner Vision Zero Supplemental Safety Action Plan. As I just mentioned, we amended that on the tip recently. Also, Hubbardston Bridge Replacement, Williamsville Road over the Burnshire River, Sterling Stormwater Improvements at Wachusett Reservoir on Route 110, Gardner Elm Street Resurfacing and Sidewalk Improvements, which is Safe Routes to School project. And lastly, in 25, we have Fitchburg Twin Cities Rail Trail Construction Phase 2. This Phase 2 project in Fitchburg is also advanced constructed in 2026, so you'll see that listed again as well. Moving to 2026, Section 1A, Leominster Reconstruction Rehab of Route 12, the second year of this. Ashburnham Road Rehab on 101. Harvard Resurfacing and Box Widening on Air Road, the final year of that. Also in 2026, we have Athol Bridge Replacement, Main Street over G&W Railroad. Harvard Lancaster Bridge Replacement, Jackson Road over Nashua River. Harvard Littleton Acton Concord Guide and Traffic Sign Replacement on a section of Route 2. In Fitchburg, we have improvements at Memorial Middle School, another Safe Routes to School project. And finally, the Fitchburg second year of the Twin Cities Rail Trail Phase 2. In 27, Athol intersection improvements 2A at Brookside Road, along with Templeton, reconstruction of Route 68 from King Philip Trail north to the Phillipston Town Line. That project's advanced constructed in 28 as well as of now. Clinton reconstruction of Sterling Street, which is Route 62. Fitchburg Ashby resurfacing and related work on Route 31. Gardner Bike Path Bridge construction, North Central Pathway over Route 140. And in 2028, Templeton reconstruction of 68, the second year of this. Fitchburg reconstruction of John Fitch Highway. Sterling intersection improvements 140 at 62. Athol Orange Bridge replacement, Logan Road over the East Branch of the Tully River. Leominster Lancaster pavement preservation related work on Route 2. Petersham culvert replacement on New Salem Road over an unnamed brook. And finally, in 2025, we have Air Road Rehab on Route 2A, which is the Main Street project. We had a presentation on that last year. Winchton intersection improvements at Blair Square. We also had a presentation on that, I believe, last year. Athol sidewalk installation on Templeton Road. And finally, Gardner Bridge Rehab, Mill Street over Baker Brook. So this is the list as it stands now. As I mentioned, the idea is to drop 2025, add federal fiscal year 2030. We'll consult our list of projects. We call it the appendix section, basically candidate projects for this list that have not been assigned a year for various reasons. We'll be backfilling there. One thing we've been telling everyone to do, especially if you have a project on this list, is get in contact with your design consultant, provide updates to the district office of Mass DOT and to us as well. That's important information as we begin to look at different scenarios for project placement. We've reached out to a number of communities. We've heard back from a number of communities. However, there's still some holes that we'll be looking to fill. As I mentioned, the next few weeks will be continued data gathering related to these projects. We have a meeting set up with Mass DOT next week to get our funding allotment for the target section. It's a fiscally constrained document, so that's important information to have. We're reviewing that in February with the MPO, among other things. So still at the beginning of the process. If there's any questions, please reach out to me, and please get us updates on your project if you can. Thank you.
All right, any questions for Brian? All right, thank you, Brian. We'll move on to the next agenda item, which I think is a similar update on the UPWP, which is agenda item 8. Brian, are you doing this or is Sherry here and I just don't see her?
I
Yep,
can do it.
Sherry.
I got it.
All right, there you go. Go ahead,
We
Terry.
originally let Brian do it, but I don't mind. I feel like he's been talking a lot already. I can take over for a little bit, give you a break.
All right, Sherry.
So for the UPWP this year, we had just sent out our solicitation, like a project solicitation memo last week, where we were asking our municipalities if they have any particular projects in mind that we can include in our UPWP. We have heard back from 3 communities to date, as far as I know, and we are reaching out to them just to solidify a few things. I believe the deadline to submit request is February 7th, so you do have a couple more weeks if you do have a project in mind. So definitely reach out to Brian or myself or any of our staff if you want to kind of go back and forth on some ideas so we can kind of come up with a potential project. And then at the next meeting in February, I hope to have a equity analysis so we can also go through our project requests and kind of determine which projects we want to select for next year, and then move forward with our process. We do have a couple more months left, and we're starting the review and update behind the scenes. So we will be presenting each month on our progress, and we'll go from there. I think that's all I have. Am I missing anything, Brian?
Nope, that about sums it up. If there's any questions, feel free to reach out.
Yes, anyone have any questions for Sherry? All right, thanks, Sherry. Move on to agenda item 9, which I believe is an update on the Subregional Representative Caucus, which I think is you, Brian.
Yep. So this invite went out to all town managers earlier last week, and this is in relation to our sub-regional election caucus we'll be holding at our office in Leominster, February 13th at 5 o'clock. So the idea behind this is to get a representative from each community and each sub-region to get together in caucus and determine who will be the official voting representative for each sub-region, and also appoint a alternate and a designee for each of those positions. So I've heard back from a few communities so far. We'll be doing some targeted outreach on this. We feel it's important to have everyone there represented, and ultimately this is an effort to re-engage some of the sub-region, get some voting members. So if you haven't already, you can talk to your town manager, and if you can give me the information of the person appointed, that would be great. We'll directly outreach to them. Staff will be working the next few weeks to shore up this list and do some additional outreach. So informational right now. We do also have a snow date listed here. There's no official sign up yet. We expect town managers to get back to us with contact information with the individuals. But nonetheless, this will be February 13th, 5 o'clock at MRPC offices in Leominster.
All right, anyone have any questions for Brian? All right, thank you, Brian. We'll now move on to agenda item 10, which is updates. District 2. Anyone here from District 2?
Afternoon, everyone. This is Tom Ruda in District 2. I'm sitting in for Daryl. I'll be giving you the update. First, in fiscal 25, we do not have any projects in your region. In fiscal 26, we do not have a targeted project, but we have one non-targeted project. That's 612151 in Athol. It's the bridge replacement, Route 2A / Main Street over the G&W Railroad. The design status is at pre-25%. It's relatively early in the design process. Let's see, the current advertising date is July of 2026, and the tip amount is $4.3 million. Next, in 2027, we have two targeted projects. 608415 also in Athol. This is intersection improvements at Route 2A and Brookside Road. And let's see, that design status is also at pre-25%. A lot of the preliminary work is going on right now. The current ad date is January 2nd of 2027. approximately 2 years from now, and the tip amount in 2027 is $1.7 million. Next, we have 608424 Templeton, reconstruction of Route 68, extending from Route 202 all the way to the Phillipston Town Line. That is at 75% design. The current add date is January 16th of 2027. Again, almost exactly 2 years from now. And the tip amount of $11.15 million is spread over fiscal 27 and 28. And that is all I have for the moment.
All right, anyone have any questions? All right, thanks, Thomas.
Thank you.
District 3?
Hi, this is Ann Sullivan again. So in 2025, we have project 604499. That's the Leominster Route 12 project that Brian mentioned earlier. This is a seed. It was advertised in 24 and it appears in 25 as well as 26. So that's the NTP was issued to JH Lynch in December, and they're actually having I think next week is their pre-construction meeting. 609213 Harvard resurfacing and box widening on Air Road is at 75%. The 100% are due at the end of January. Hubbardston 609187, that's a bridge replacement project. Williamsville Road over the Burnshirt River, that is at PSNE, just waiting on right-of-way, and environmental permits have been filed. So just waiting to get those in. 610659 Sterling, stormwater drainage improvements at Wachusett Reservoir on Route 110. That is at PSNE. The right-of-way cert has been issued, just waiting on the 401 and 404 environmental permits that have both been filed. 610672 Gardner, Elm Street, resurfacing and sidewalk improvements. This is the Safe Routes to School project. That is at PSNE, and we are just waiting on the right-of-way for that. 609411, this is the Fitchburg-Leominster Twin City Rail Trail construction phase 2. This is also an AC project. The NTP was issued to ET&L in December. That's it. That's all I have.
All right, any questions for Ann? All right, thanks, Ann. Next update is from Transit. George, you got anything?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have only one item. Due to the closure of Nashoba Valley Medical Center, MART was recently notified of Mass DOT award of a successful grant application. The grant is funded through June 2026. It provides $278,000 for 1.5 years for a shuttle service to Emerson Hospital from the towns of Air, Shirley, and Harvard, providing healthcare options for the many residents of the region negatively impacted by the recent closure of the Nashoba Valley Medical Center. We are working right now with the impacted towns to create this new service. We just met with Shirley elected official and Air elected official, and soon we'll be meeting with Harvard elected official. Running this service hopefully by mid to end of next month, February. Thank you.
All right, any questions for George? All right, thank you, George. Next is an update from the JTC. Brian?
Yep, JTC met last week. Our next meeting is February 12th. We always meet 1 week before this meeting at 2:30. We'll be reviewing the TIP and UPWP materials, related to those projects development over the next few months and soliciting their feedback in the process. So that's all I have for now. Oh, actually, I do have one more item related to this. Last week with the JTC, we reviewed the public participation plan. So this is what the MPO put out for a 45-day public review and comment period at the December meeting. This is all for public comment right now. The last day in that comment period is February 3rd. At our meeting next month, we'll review any comments that came in and hopefully be able to endorse the PPP update. That's all I have.
All right, any questions for Brian? All right, seeing none, thanks, Brian. The last update is from the RPC. Glenn?
I do have something brief, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your time. The MRPC has issued its call for proposals for district local technical assistance. I sound like a bureaucrat, so let me just say that free planning locally and free grant writing services are available under the DLTA program. So I encourage any municipal officials in this room to contact myself or Karen Chapman, and our email addresses and phone numbers are on the website. Thanks for your time.
Any questions for Glenn? All right, thank you, Glenn. Next agenda item is 11, Administrative Matters. Our next meeting is February 19th. Same time, correct, Brian?
That's right.
And then we're on to the last agenda item, the adjournment. Can I get a motion, a second to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second, Laura Schifrin.
All right, all in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
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 All right, thank you, everyone. We'll see you next month. Be safe, stay warm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.